1 in 5 people will be involved in or affected by a violent attack. The results could be life-changing. It could happen anywhere, anytime. It could happen to you. What would you do if you were attacked like the woman in the first video? Now, you may think you know, but until you're in this situation, you can never be too sure whether you would just freeze, react strongly, or maybe even give in to your attacker. The results of getting it wrong could be catastrophic, and you could be fighting for your life. Saying the right thing and doing the right thing at the right time may make all the difference and save your life. Crime statistics state that 90% of attacks end up in serious injury to the victim. It is also true that many of these attacks result in a rape or a sexual assault. The odds are not in your favour. 60% of crimes can be avoided in the first place, and it's possible to tip the odds in your favour. If you learn the right techniques and the right things to say at the right time, it can make all the difference and save your life. What is an actual attack like? We talked to a victim who survived a brutal attack by a sexual predator. The attack was caught on camera. Warning, some viewers may find this clip and the interview disturbing.
Yeah, it was around about 8 o'clock, and I just remember it was being really, really cold outside, and I just missed my bus. It was the last bus, and I decided to walk home. And it was only about 3 miles. It was only 3 miles to my house. I normally wear my headphones when I'm walking home, when I'm on the bus. I just didn't think. He came out of nowhere. He literally took me by surprise, and it just happened so quick, and all I felt was his fist. I remember falling on the floor and getting dragged in the alleyway. He pinned me down on the floor, and I was so helpless. I couldn't do it. I couldn't get him off me.
So what happened next?
I tried to push him off me, and I just couldn't move. His hands was around my throat, and I just felt so helpless. And I tried to push him off me again, and all of a sudden I just felt him hitting me again, and then that's when I started to lose consciousness.
You have just heard a harrowing account from a victim of a real-life attack. So what happened? First of all, you need to understand that an attack may come in many forms. Grabs, punches, being pinned to the floor, multiple attackers, and weapons may be used. In the scenario that we just witnessed, we heard from the victim that the attacker came from nowhere. Actually, this is just a perception. The attacker was probably following the woman for a considerable time. The woman, however, was wearing headphones, and this contributed massively to the attack, as the attacker surprised her.
Personal safety skills are really, really important, and it's something we really emphasise when we are teaching adults and children as well. Just things like, if you're walking by yourself in a wood, would you walk straight past a tree, or would you try and walk around it? Would you wear earphones if you're out running in a park by yourself? So I think it's the knowledge side of things is really important to prevent an attack from happening in the first place.
The theory side of it is much more important than the getting physical with people, and that is a last resort, and I think that that's very important to teach people responsibility.
The lack of awareness, the inability to hear the attacker coming, the effect that music has on balance are all crucial personal safety points that could have helped to have avoided the attack, or at least to have been prepared and aware. The attacker had the element of surprise. When you watch the scene, the attacker surprises the victim. The first punch knocks the victim to the floor. At this point, the victim could be disorientated or unconscious. What you have to realize is that the attacker has been planning this attack for some time. They have pre-selected their victim, what they may look like, and where the attack may take place. All of this happens even before they have seen their specific victim. The choices the victim makes is what takes their path either towards the attacker or away from them. Personal safety is the avoidance part of an attack situation. This is the part where you understand where and how and why you may be attacked. And it's this part where you get a chance to avoid the situation right from the start. Imagine if you could analyze an attack situation right from the start to the finish and get the chance for a do-over. Now, real life is not like that, but in training, if you're clever, you can go through an actual attack, break it down, analyze it, and get the chance to get it right. The skills may save your life. The 4C model by the Combat Academy is a complete process that understands where personal safety and self-defense meet, and it tracks the attacker and the victim through all of the decisions that they make, all of the planning, all of the assessments. They all combine and eventually they may collide, and that's where you get an attack situation. The model also considers the physical, the psychological, the geographical and circumstantial factors that may affect an attack situation. The model itself revolves around the worst possible outcome, which happens in the center. This is the attack zone. That's where the physical need to defend yourself actually happens, with the avoidance part happening in the outer circle at the very outside. The process of an attack starts a long time before the physical part of the attack. This part is where we can avoid the situation from becoming physical in the first place. The outer circle is where the planning from the victim and the attacker take place. Selecting the right actions by making educated assessments, avoiding those choices and plans that may result in risk are all choices that are made by the victim. Choices like putting your headphones in or carrying your phone, drinking excessively while on a night out. These are all choices that may carry you straight into harm's way and into the path of your attacker. On the other side, the attacker is also assessing, planning, making decisions and avoiding risk to themselves. The main risks to the attacker are getting caught, getting hurt. The victim that they select will give them what they want with minimum risk of the above. Once decisions are made, they will visualize the victim in their mind. If you look like the victim, act like the victim, and find yourself in the wrong place, you will become the victim. You will be selected and you will be eyed by the attacker. You will not even know that this has happened, and you are now going to be stalked by a predator. The next stage sees the attacker progress to the inner circle. This is where you've been eyed by the attacker. They've seen you, they are stalking you. It may be that they've seen you go to the cash point. It might be that they've seen the expensive mobile phone worth £500 that you are holding in your hand. Would you walk around with £500 in your hand? It may be that they have been watching you, stalking you over an extended period of time. They may have been taking photos of you, or watching you and your life through social media? How well do you know your Facebook friends? Now that you've been selected, the attacker will reassess the situation. Depending on what they see and feel against the risks, they may avoid you or they may continue stalking you. Understanding that your body language, the way that you are walking, whether you are isolated, appearing to be weak and nervous, this will make all of the difference. They now progress and commit to the final stage of stalking you. The situation has now become dangerous. Danger zone. This is the last chance to avoid an actual physical attack. It is also the first chance that you will have to see or ping your attacker. Provided that you are aware and have not blocked your senses with sunglasses, headphones, or a lack of awareness of your surroundings, you will see your attacker at this stage. The attacker will reassess you as a victim in a final stage before attacking you. It's at this chance that you have a chance yourself to see the attacker. We call this ping. Seeing them at the right time so that they don't attack you by surprise may make all the difference and save your life. If you shout at your attacker, raise the alarm, it may be enough to disrupt them from that predatorial behaviour. You will also be able to take control of your position. If they do suddenly attack you, or grab you, or punch you, being grabbed or punched from behind will not bode well for your survival. If the attack continues, you will now be in the attack zone. And this is where your physical skills will be the only thing standing between you and injury or death. Having the right skills and surviving the initial violent attack may also cause the attacker to reassess the situation and jump back out into the danger zone and abort the attack. Closely linked to the 4C model is the 4F model, which overlays. When you look at the center, the attack zone, the attack will always happen in a location chosen by the attacker, and it will usually be isolated, dark and contained. This is also often in what we call a fringe area, such as a car park, an alley, or an isolated pathway. In the danger zone, a proper assessment of your physicality versus theirs will give you a true idea of the level of threat, and it will also give the attacker an idea of the risk relating to the same factor, the physical factor. The inner circle is the circumstantial factor, where you will commit to your journey, the time, the place, the route and the method. The outer circle is where you will make choices, plans and decisions. In the Jane Doe attack scenario, Jane missed her bus. She decided to take a dangerous route home rather than to call for a taxi or a lift. It's those dynamic, reactional choices that we make that can carry us into harm's way or away from the attacker.
Personal safety is not all about self-defense. It's about planning. The reason you practice both physically and mentally is in order to give you time to think during an actual attack. During an attack, there'll probably be strength differential between you and the attacker. In order to survive, you need to keep fighting and never ever give up. You need to prepare yourself not only physically but also mentally for an attack, which could happen anytime, any place. Self-defense is not about winning, it's about not losing. You'll find that 90% of what you practice, you'll only ever use for 10% of the scenarios. There's a huge difference between reality and choreographed practice that you do in a gymnasium. There's a lot more to personal safety than just learning self-defense. Most of it is in the mind. Most of it is what you think, and how you plan. It's about situation awareness.
Remember, you are chosen as a victim because you are perceived as a victim. Just like the predator in the wild choosing the prey, they choose you because you are isolated or weak or perceived as such. There are two main considerations for any predator in the wild. Number one, they do not want to get seen or caught. And number two, they don't want to get hurt.
Calm it down! Calm yourself down! No, call the police. Call the police.
Because of the above, the attacker or the predator will assess the situation dynamically throughout every stage of the attack. If they perceive the victim to be a threat, So if the victim is making lots of noise or the victim appears to be aggressive, then there is every chance that the predator or the attacker will abort the attack. Back off! Back off! There are many different types of attacker and many different motivations behind an attack. When you consider that there are muggings, robberies, rapes and sexual motivated crimes, hate crimes, intoxication, drug-related crimes, all of these need to be treated differently. When you also consider the different types of attack and methods of attack together, whether the attacker is armed, are they using a knife, is it a gun, are they just big and strong, are they going to overpower you? All of that leads to one thing, and that is the threat level. All of that adds up to the level of threat and therefore the concept of how you respond. Former Major Hugh Roberts of the Royal Military Police is an expert on reasonable force.
Reasonable force is a term that considers what a man on the street would consider reasonable and necessary given the circumstances. It therefore must be proportionate. The level of threat is based upon the intent behind the attack and the physical potential for harm dictated by the attacker's ability and the method of attack. An example would be a robber. Just wants your property, nothing personal. If you give it, the attack will be over. Whereas a rapist or a murderer may well want a far greater prize and the price may be too great. The threat level on a scale of 1 to 5 for a robbery may be 2, but for a murder it may be 4 or 5. The method of an attack may also play its part. A rapist with no weapon is still dangerous, but a murderer with a knife is even more so. If we were to grade the threat based on the method of attack, then we would say a 3 for the unarmed and a 5 for the armed rapist. If you then add the two scores together, you will then have the overall threat level. Once you understand the threat level, you can then decide the level of force appropriate to repel or stop the attacker. In the context of protecting a third party, you may be looking at restraining the attacker, which may be the case for door security staff. However, in the context of protecting a principal as a bodyguard, then the outcome may well be the use of lethal force.
When you consider the mechanics of a real-life attack, it's fast, it's furious, it's brutal, the levels of aggression are terrifying. If you're not prepared for that, it will overwhelm you. If you think about the physiological responses in the body, you will be panicked, your blood will be coursing through your veins, adrenaline will be flooding your system. You'll be experiencing what's known as a fight or flight response. But there's a third response, and that's freeze. If you're not mentally prepared for this kind of aggression, this kind of onslaught, then actually you probably won't run, you probably won't fight, you'll just freeze. Surviving the initial onslaught of a brutal attack will give you time. Time is the one crucial factor for survival during this sort of situation. If you survive that initial onslaught and buy yourself time, there is time for help to arrive. There is time for the attacker to reconsider the attack and maybe abort the situation. There is time for the attacker to become tired. Time can be your best friend in this kind of situation. Real-life self-defense does not follow rules. It's live, it's aggressive, it's raw, and anything could happen. When you're learning self-defense, there are lots of martial arts out there, but they don't necessarily train you for the reality. Real self-defense does not follow rules. You need a system that is complete. You could be attacked by anybody, they could have weapons, there could be multiple attackers, and the attack itself is going to follow a situation where you could be standing, you could be punched, they could be grabbing you. The fight is probably going to end up on the floor. So you need a system that enables you to maintain your distance, enables you to engage with your opponent effectively if you're grabbed, that also teaches you ground skills, teaches you to fight or escape when you're on the floor. That system is DEFOF. DEFOF is the most powerful self-defense system in the world. DEFOF stands for distance, engage, floor, ongoing and finish. Distance. Distance in any kind of a fight is one of the most crucial things. When you control the distance, it also enables you to take the wide picture, the wide angle, to take the overview. You can see what's going on around you. If you were to engage with that opponent straight away, you lose sight of what's happening around you. That means that you could get attacked by somebody else, you could get attacked or punched from behind. Distance is absolutely crucial in a fight. And if you can see behind me, the guys are working the distance, they're training to maintain the distance under constant pressure. Engage. In a fight situation, it is inevitable that someone is going to punch you. Punching attacks are among the most common methods of attack used by the perpetrator. There are several ways that you can make sure you don't get hurt. One is to physically block those punches. The other is to hold on to your opponent, much in the same way that a boxer holds on to an opponent, to stop the person from hurting them. Now, in a ring situation, the referee is there to break that up. But in the street, there are no rules, there is no referee. Holding on to your opponent and clinching them can make the difference between them hitting you or not. It can be very, very effective when it comes to stopping punches. It's a well-known fact that most fights will end up on the floor. Lots of martial arts do not teach you how to fight when you're on your back, when someone much heavier is on top of you. If you train for a sport and you go in for a fight, you will weigh the same as your opponent. They have weight classes. In the street, you may be a 7-stone weakling and the attacker may be a 20-stone giant. It's not going to be pretty if that person is pinning you down onto the floor. It's a dangerous place to be. They could be mounting you, they could be raining down blows, punching you. You also have to bear in mind that most sexual assaults and rapes will end up and be perpetrated on the floor. Learning the skills to escape from that situation or to control and dominate your opponent in that situation could save your life. The O in DEFOF stands for ongoing. Now, ongoing is one of those things that is constant throughout the entire attack or fight process and situation. Ongoing refers to the fact that you may be getting hurt, your attacker may be hurt, you're getting tired, they're getting tired. Their psychology is changing dynamically through every stage of the attack. They're assessing it. Have they picked on the wrong person? Are they winning this encounter? Remember, attackers do not want to get caught and they do not want to get hurt. So the longer you can survive, the more influence you have on the situation. Time can also be your best friend. If you can survive for an extended period of time, whilst you're calling for help, help may well arrive. And again, the attacker is perhaps thinking then about getting away more than they are about hurting you. The physiology changes, you're getting tired, fighting when you're tired. If you do not train for this, if you do not train realistically, you will not appreciate what it's like in a real attack situation. The F in DEFOF stands for finish. The fight or the attack will end up somewhere. Now, the outcome of that attack, hopefully, is that you restrain the attacker, they don't get hurt, you don't get hurt, they get arrested, they go to jail. It could also be that you need to get away. Temporarily disable your attacker, put them down, you still need to get out of there. Now, depending on where you are, you might be in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a woodland. You might be miles from home, and that attacker may pursue you. So you need to decide how you're going to end that attack. If you're that isolated and the risk is that high, you may need to finish your attacker. You may need to do some serious damage. Bearing in mind that reasonable force, proportionate force, and the fact that you have to make a decision how high the threat is before you decide what finish and what approach you're going to take.
DEFOF is a model or a representation of a fight or a violent encounter. That means it can be linear, as in you start off with distance and you finish with finish. Not necessarily. It could go in all shapes and sizes. DEFOF can be used at any time and any place. DEFOF is all about reality and stages. You could start off walking down a street and you immediately go onto the floor. You could finish within a second. Distance may be all that's required to create the necessary conditions to finish the model and finish. DEFOF is a brilliant system of learning and visualizing all about self-defense. It's all about reality based decisions. 50% of everything that happens in a violent encounter happens here in your head, not in the theory of a gymnasium or a martial arts class. That's where Deaf Off really comes into its own. The system, which has been called Deaf Off by Combat Academy, it deals with reality. It deals with the ugliness of a violent encounter. It deals with difference in sizes and shapes. It could be on a dark night. It could be in a woodland. It could be a small, demure 7.5 stone lady, or it could be a 20 stone giant. Deaf Off is a model that works for all people, for all seasons, and it's reality based. A brilliant system that can be used by anybody, irrespective of any form of physical or mental limitations. It works. It's reality.
A real attack is brutal and terrifying. You may experience extreme pain or injury. You will be forced to stare the ugliest demons in the face. You may find yourself living in a horror movie scene like one you've seen on the TV. You may experience feelings like, why is this happening? Or perhaps, is this a dream? If you don't train for it, you may have a black belt, but still fall to pieces in the brutal reality.
He pinned me down. I bucked upwards like I was taught in my self-defense course. I used a technique called Anaconda, which allowed me to roll him off me. I then raked his eyes, which sounds really disgusting now, but that's what I was taught in my self-defense course. I felt my life was in danger. Self-defense training saved my life. If I could have done something different that night, I would have put my headphones in. It was a decision that I made and I didn't think about it. I would have probably heard the attacker behind me. I would have been aware of my surroundings. But at that moment, I didn't think. I do recommend everyone should have some form of self-defense training. It actually saved my life. I never really thought that was ever going to happen to anyone that I know, not alone me. Combat Academy training really does work, it's the real stuff. And with one simple technique, I managed to get an attacker off me. And I'm here telling the story now. He was a lot stronger than me and a lot bigger than me. And I managed to get away.
Combat Academy gives you a confidence that martial arts doesn't. You know, it's more realistic.
Many times I get people ask me about self-defense within Kung Fu, and in general the martial arts don't cover that in a comprehensive way. When I read about this course, I thought that it did.
It's not like normal karate, that it's more of a sport than anything else. When I done karate for donkey's years, I came second in the World Championships. I should teach martial arts. And then in the day I thought I could actually look after myself until I got involved with Combat Academy. I need to find out a normal karate block didn't actually work.
It's very well planned and very well thought out. The drilling and the training is very realistic.
I've learned so much. It's all been challenging. Bit techniques, bit physical. They find your weaknesses and they push your buttons.
It's been a very useful journey. We've learned a huge amount.
We wanted something different. There's lots of boot camps, there's lots of fitness instructors out there. We love our fitness, and this was something that just stood out for us, something completely different and threw us out of our comfort zones as well.
So I feel really empowered. They teach it in a way that really breaks it down well. And it's something that anybody can do.
Everything has been a big challenge for us. However, because it's so different, it's also really good fun. They make it fun, they make it safe, and they make it really enjoyable as well. It's improved my confidence immensely, really. Before, if someone even tried to jump out at me, I wouldn't have a clue what to do. I'd probably run, scream, I don't know what I'd do. But now I know how to control my fear. I know how to deal with the situation and finish it, hopefully, as well.
Anything that happens to me, I've got a chance of getting out of it.
It just brings it all home that self-defense is a case of mind over matter.
It's an alternative to your traditional exercising. I feel you learn the best skill in life, which is survival.
It deals in the psychological aspects of dangerous physical situations, and that is a very modern outlook, and something that's normally not covered in traditional martial arts.
What I like about it, funny enough, is when you punch in somebody or you wrestle on the floor, when you finish, you get a hug. There's no egos. You know, you do karate or boxing, there's a little bit, for me, I think there's a bit of an ego behind it. Do you know what I mean? I'm better than you. But this, doesn't matter who wins, you have a great time sort of thing. As long as I win. That's okay.
The highlight, just the combination of what I'm learning and mixing with the people. People are very positive, and it's just a very positive experience in general.
And obviously when we come down here, it's one big family, and we look after each other.
It's fantastic, just come along, end of story.
If I didn't believe in Combat Academy before, I believe in it now.